Today I'd like to welcome our two speakers. Mark Piper is the Vice President and General Manager of FacilityConneX. Mark is a passionate entrepreneur leader that has the ability to drive a team of technologists, operations, sales, and marketing to launch a successful products company. He has over 30 years experience in managing people within large and small companies. He has deep expertise in software development, cloud platforms, industrial markets, and the security sector. Before joining FacilityConneX, he spent 8 years at GE, where he was the general manager of the real-time operation intelligence and knowledge service division. His management of that business unit helped drive their market leader position in the industrial internet with leading-edge products in mobility, analytics, and visualization. Our second speaker today is Rhonda Landis. She's the Vice President of Operations for FacilityConneX. Ms. Landis brings 30 years of experience in operations, software development, and project management in the industrial and defense industry segments. Ms. Landis has led large programs spanning the world focused on on-time delivery and quality process control. In GE services and software development, she led teams in application architecture, cloud-based infrastructure, big data storage, and advanced process analytic projects that drove new technology into industrial applications. Ms. Landis has an MBA in business and a concentration in finance and a BS in computer science. With that, I will turn it over to Mark and Rhonda. Thank you again for doing this for us. Mark and Rhonda, we're not hearing you. Make sure that you've unmuted.
Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. I was muted. Thank you, Liz, and thank you everyone for joining the webinar. We're going to focus our attention on next generation analytics and some of the work we've done with customers across different industries over the world, actually, at this point. And we're going to really focus some heavy attention on the analytics and how we present those results to customers so that they can go to action quickly. Before I do that, I want to basically ask people to think about on the call, part of the questions that you might ask at the tail end of this webinar. But, you know, some of the key questions that we like to talk about is, do you provide monitoring today? Are you bringing that data back? Or if you're in the process of grabbing data, do you just grab the data manually and then analyze the data? Are you really looking at it in a real-time way? Second thing is, are you looking for any type of commissioning type system? Is it something that's in your roadmap or in your thought process today because you have energy concerns or you have maintenance issues that you want to make sure is happening day in, day out, or at least in a continuous type basis so that you're not wasting money across the board? And then think about what your vision is for things like mountain-based commissioning services or how you would apply that across a campus because we're going to basically how we think an operator or a person in your shoes can look at that data, can use that to basically go to action. I think everyone probably on the call, if you haven't at one point in time over the past probably 5-6 years, mountain-based commissioning sort of looks this way. You know, people do. I still talk to people every day about, you know, people who have never done a commissioning type service. If you're not familiar with commissioning, it basically brings up and looks through all the equipment and processes that you might have, and it recommends and brings a lot of value back into your organization at improving those pieces of equipment or running more efficiently across the board. Periodic commissioning, retro-commissioning has been basically the way things get done over the past it's probably 20-25 years now. And monitoring-based commissioning is fairly new. Over the last 2-3 years, monitoring-based commissioning has come on very strong. People have that data that is serving up and being collected. Now the question is what to do with that data, how to make these monitoring-based commissioning systems more efficient. And that's where FacilityConneX excels. Just to give you a little idea of customers who have made a difference with monitoring-based commissioning, this is South Coast Health. They have 4 hospitals. It's a healthcare system. We're monitoring over 18,000 points today. We have identified potential savings of over $750,000 of changes optimization. We are actually monitoring over 1,100 pieces of equipment across these 4 hospitals. And this is all happening with FacilityConneX, and the analytics are serving them a very prioritized and nice look on how to go after these problems, really focusing your attention on the biggest bang for the buck. And that has led to also utility incentives. Identifying these issues and drawing out some of these potential energy savings basically will allow you to walk into a utility or, and negotiate things like utility incentives. And we provide some of that help and service with our experience type calls. This is a more industrial type application using FacilityConneX. This is World Kitchen out in upstate New York. They have 10 heavy-duty, big compressed air units that are used for production purposes. If you're not familiar with World Kitchen, they make those Corning plates that people buy in the stores. We basically monitor about 500 points, fairly small number of points, but huge impact. In the first 4 days of monitoring World Kitchen, we identified $135,000 off a $3 million electricity bill. So you can see how quickly sometimes this year-over-year savings actually adds up. We've basically worked with NYSERDA, and they funded a complete compressed air study based on those results from FacilityConneX, which has helped to basically identify over $350,000 worth of potential savings in this one customer. So just, you don't necessarily have to have thousands of assets. This is just 10 fairly large compressed air units that draw a lot of energy every day. And then university and campuses. We do this also with enterprise type campuses as well, but this is Northeastern University. And we started off kind of simple here. The biggest challenge with Northeastern was the air handling units. So we focused our attention on just looking at optimizing the air handling units across 18 buildings across the campus, and just focus really on improving the air handling, the airflow system across those 18 buildings, in addition to watching them for schedule and occupancy and those type of issues, because lots of people, especially when you have universities like this, the maintenance team might be basically putting something into maintenance mode and forgetting to take it off. So simple detection type algorithms like that against an occupancy schedule actually pays off big time with huge amounts of savings. So this is FacilityConneX, and right after this, Rhonda will give you guys a demonstration of our system. So I'm just going to briefly give you some of the key points of what a next generation analytics system should have. We've basically chosen to go in the cloud for cost and pricing reasons. It helps really drive the total cost of ownership for people in the audience here really low. Helps it basically a no worry type system. We do all the administration and management in the cloud. We are heavily secured. I think you probably have seen some of our information earlier on, and we're going to talk about that in another slide after the demo. But we are secure and protocol agnostic. We have over 200 protocols, and we have connected pretty much to every BMS system that we have basically encountered right now. We haven't had any issue connecting. We are, first and foremost, you have to be a continuous monitoring detection system. So we have to be able to bring that data up, share that data with you, allow you to look at your data and look at your reports, do any analysis you want. That's all part of the system. On top of that, we basically bring maintenance and mobility aspects. We basically allow you to see that data, allow you to see those analytic results, use our system more effectively when you're in the field, and passing information from, that's happening from the system into someone's handheld type device. We have full notifications and actions, so we don't just basically give you a report at the end of the month with 100 findings in it. We basically focus on the top findings that are there, and we'll notify you if something is critical. all through that whole process. It doesn't necessarily, it's in real time, our system across the board. We even have customers who use what we call task management, which allows us to basically take a maintenance person through a set of tasks that you want them to do when they're basically changing or maintaining that piece of equipment. And then our biggest claim to fame is our fault detection and diagnostics. We have over 500 analytics across different types that are already pre-built into our system and can be built upon as we talk. We're going to talk a little bit about that and give you a couple of key examples. And lastly, our analytics also estimate, if they can, the energy savings and what we call opportunity savings. So this is the cost of not fixing that problem. This allows you to basically justify those changes in the field. And then one last thing, we actually call this our FCX experience, FacilityConneX experience, and we get on the phone. Part of our service, part of our subscription price on the cloud is a monthly consultation. So you're getting commissioning with commissioning experts once a month for an hour. And we're going to take your results and look at the top ones that are causing you pain, and we're going to help you make decisions on those for you on a month-by-month basis. Okay? With that, I'm going to pass the ball to Rhonda to give you a brief presentation of FacilityConneX.
Okay, hopefully everyone can see that. I've projected my iPad onto the screen.
Yep.
Okay, so this is going to be a quick demo of how our system is represented to the users of this system, whether it's you and or your customers. I'm not going to be able to show everything, so obviously let us know at the end of the call if you want to see some additional parts and pieces that maybe I didn't get around to. This is the representative of a campus, whatever kind of campus that is. You can see I have the various types of buildings that are floating around my campus. The one thing I want you to take away on this is, as I traverse through the system, there is a data model that's put on top of that data. As you guys know, when you go to a data or you go to a customer site, that data can be horrible. So the data points you're looking at are going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you're not going to know what they are. And you've got multiple people trying to request data, and everyone's trying to find where that real truth of the data is. So this data model gets applied to whatever those data sources are. This enables us to use SCADA systems, historian systems. We use multiple vendor systems. We can connect directly to the controllers. We can connect to any of the data sources. We apply this data model, which is what you see here on the left-hand side, and this data model then hides the fact that the data could be coming from all different sources. The other thing that we do is we can create different flavors of this data model. So depending on the role or the responsibility of the person who's using the system, we can show the exact same data but coming up in a different format that more accurately reflects the way that they do their job and their roles that they use every day. So what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and look through the different aspects of the system for the data that we're collecting. And instead of you having to go out and collect data to do your jobs or to give information to the customer, this system is always collecting data, and it's always submitting the data to the cloud through a secure connection. And all of your mobile devices and your browsers are connecting to the cloud and making that data accessible to you all the time. So it is a full set of data. Everything that we have connection to, you have access to. So it's not like you're going to get just a subset of the data. You're going to go get every piece of data that's made available to us. And what I have here is I've just drilled down into an air handling unit. Again, it's not just one piece of equipment and a threshold value, whether it's above or beyond some number. What we do is we look at the entire airflow system. So for this particular air handling unit, we've got multiple modules, multiple components that make up this airflow system, whether it's upstream, downstream. So we take all of these all of these modules and components into effect whenever we're doing our analysis. So we look at everything that could contribute, and then we'll tell you what the most likely culprit is that's causing you to waste energy, or maybe your machines are not as efficient as they could be. You can also, without doing any additional work, you can trend current and historical values. Our system will maintain a year's worth of historical values and always allow you to go in and run trends against that data. So no additional setup required. That's all just included as part of the system. The other thing from a maintenance standpoint is what we call notes or collaboration. Is everything is in context of whatever is selected up here on the left-hand side. So if I have some notes, I know something is going wrong, I can take notes, I can attach the data, I can let the maintenance people know what actually I can see. They can see all this remotely as well. If customer complains to you that they're having some issue, you can, no matter where you are, just log on to your mobile device, your browser, and see what the data looks like, so you can make a good call, or at least an accurate call, whether you need to race right out there, or you can actually answer their questions the next time you happen to be on site. The other thing I want to point out is we always maintain the current health of the system. So we tell you whether there's any alarms, we tell you whether there's risk on this piece of equipment, which to us risk means there are some analytics that are not passing. So this could be something that is starting to trend out of control. This is something that has already trended out of control. This is maintenance problems that need to happen. And at any point in time, no matter where you are in the model, you can always hit that badge. And when you hit the badge, it will tell you for whatever you have selected, in this case the HU1 administrative work areas, here are all the problems that we see. And by drilling into any one of these problems, which is always displayed in a prioritized order, it gives you the problem and what we, by looking at the data, determine is the most likely root cause of that problem. So we'll do that across, again, any system, any module, any area that we're running analytics, we'll be able to tell you this information. The other part I want to go in and show you real quick is a little more from a summarization standpoint. So I'm going to go back to our overall campus. These eyeball icons down here at the bottom provide more of the analytic information and details for you to drill into and do the analysis. So I'm going to show you a couple of our what we call glance dashboards. From an executive summary, this gives you a roll-up of, again, wherever you are in context. So I'm currently in context of the demo campus, so I'm going to get all of the buildings that I have across the campus. If I happen to know that there's a problem with the air handlers, I could go into the air handler and I would get all of the details for each individual air handler and what their biggest problems are. So this is a real quick look for your facility managers, for any of your commissioning agents. You can go in and look at what the actual biggest problem is that the system has found. Then instead of you guys doing a lot of gathering data work, you can be doing the smart analytic, let me tell you what's wrong work, and just let this system gather the data for you. So what we have here is, for each of our buildings, here is the analytics that are running and how many have problems or findings. It also tells you how many assets or pieces of equipment are within that building and how well that those analytics are running against those pieces of equipment. So we have some with critical failure, and we have a few with high, and a few stragglers with medium severity. So this is maintenance problems, it could be energy problems, or it could be comfort problems. And again, each one of them, we work with you to determine what the actual severity is to you, and we make sure we have prioritized those correctly. And more importantly, what you'll find is this total opportunity breakdown. So this really is your wasted cost, or on the flip side, this could be the amount of money that you're going to be the hero for and save the company by fixing the problems that have rolled up to you. So this tells you that I've got, for the month, everything is in a time frame. So for months to date, I could have saved $4,000 in the B.D. Jones building if I go into there and identify and fix all the issues that it's telling me. This also gives you a top findings. It goes across your entire campus and says these are the ones that are causing you the most problems. It will also tell you the analytics that are running and where you're finding the value. On this one, you see you could have saved $10,000 in the month just by fixing this one analytic failure. We also list the probable causes, and we give the findings that have been in effect for the longest duration, because obviously the longer it goes, the more you're wasting the money, and nothing new is happening. It's just saying this is wasting money and it's going to continue to do so until you fix it. One other dashboard, and then I'll flip it back to Mark, is this is our fleet analytics. So you select the types of your equipment that you want to analyze against each other. And what it does, it gives you a prioritized, rolled up list of every one of those types of equipment. So in this case, it was the air handling unit. It tells you where your opportunity savings are, where you're leaking the most of your energy costs. And it gives you this heat map that tells you over the course of time, in this case 4 weeks, over the course of time, how well has this, this piece of equipment actually been running. So we present this in a prioritized manner. So again, you can take it and help the customer, help your business to make the right decisions, or to direct the changes, or to prioritize, help prioritize capital expenditures, so you know where you need to put your effort or where you need to put your investigation. So on this one, if I happen to go down, I'm looking at these analytics, you can look at, for a particular analytic, this is all of the different types of equipment that are contributing to this amount of energy loss, so energy cost loss. So for each of these, you see this AHU11 is contributing 2,000, this AHU21 is contributing 2,500. So it'll give you the way the system is running, how much savings you could incur if you fix the problem, and you can look at it in 2 different ways on this screen. So this one tells you for the problem, which air handler units do I need to go to first to try to fix it, and which ones are having a problem. Maybe it's across, like in this case, it's across quite a few air handling units. You can also look at it in the flip side. So you can look at by pieces of equipment, and you can look at the cost savings that you could have by exact piece of equipment. And when you expand it out, it's going to tell you all of the problems on that one particular piece of equipment. So again, the data is coming through for you. It's prioritized, it's summarized, it allows you to look from a global perspective or down to the very lowest level component and its data source to provide you the data you need so you can help make the right decisions for you and your customers. All right, I'm going to flip it back to Mark.
Okay, thank you, Rhonda. Okay, I hope everyone can see my screen again.
Yeah, I see.
All right. So this slide, just to give you guys a good view, you know, one of the things that we always go through with every customer is what I refer to as the IT Gauntlet. And so that's where we talk to the IT department. We make sure that everything's, you know, happy from a security perspective, and we have a technical team that basically talks to the IT team or group or person and walks them through how we connect. And that connection starts all the way down at the DMS system, where we put a small form factor agent, and we run that tunnel. Basically, it's a virtual private network, a VPN tunnel, up through the internet through port 443. Very simple approach. However, I want to assure people that this is GE technology. This is GE. You guys probably have seen the commercials where they talk about the GE digital world, and this is about the industrial internet. And this is the same technology that's used every day when you guys are getting on flights. And that information is sent back to GE to check on how well those engines on those planes are going. So this is a very secure connection that happens to our cloud. It's also secure on the other end as well. We also use Amazon Web Services, which provide physical security and virtual security across our system, and we use that all the aspects of the Amazon Web Services around security as well. And then lastly, our encryption and compression stacks are all RSA. If you're familiar with RSA, they make those token dongles that corporations have used for probably 20, 25 years now. And they are very secure type of connections that happen, and they're well known as one of the best stacks out there. They recently were purchased by EMC, probably not recently now, but they were purchased by EMC and part of the EMC products now. The other thing that I want to mention is we don't look at our customers' number of users or number of tags. As far as we're concerned, when you join our subscription, it's unlimited users and unlimited tags. And the reason for that is our subscription is based on the asset. It's based on that piece of equipment that we're adding value, as Rhonda showed you, where we're adding value to that piece of equipment. So all of our pricing is built on that asset base, because as far as we're concerned, if we're not adding value with that asset, then we're not doing our job. And that's where you guys are going to get that return on investment. It's what we find at the air handling unit or at the compressed air system. Just to give you a little idea, we start customers right away. Our deployment process is a matter, is done within the first 30 days of deploying our systems. We connect to these pieces of equipment, and we look at the equipment from really 3 different perspectives. One is we look at it from the sub-modules. You can see in the air handling unit that just looks like a box most of the time on top of people's roofs, or on top of or on the side of the building. These air handling units are very complicated pieces of equipment, and most people can't even understand some of the aspects of it because it changes based on seasons and temperature and what's happening across that building. Our analytics basically watch that. More importantly, we're also watching that as a total unit. So like Rhonda was showing you the cost effect of at the air handling unit. We also look at it of where that unit serves upstream and downstream. So we look at it as a total system perspective, especially things like airflow. Or if you have chillers involved, we look at the chiller just as much as we look at the air handling unit and their interactions. So we actually start out with over 500 plus fault detection and diagnostic analysis analytics that run. We look at everything from the terminal devices, the VAVs, the fan power boxes, chill beams. We look at the ventilation controls and analysis. This is more for labs or places where hospitals and operating rooms where regulatory is involved. We have analytics that are watching specifically for those ventilation perspective. We look at the whole chilled water system. We have analytics that optimize your chillers, that look at the loops and the cooling towers that are associated with it. And more importantly, we look at how those chilled water is serving the equipment it's supposed to be serving. And then the compressed air systems, just like in the World Kitchen case, compressed air systems are huge energy hogs. Having those not optimized is surely costing you guys money. So our system looks at it not just from a single unit perspective, but how those units run in tandem, how those units are scheduled, how blow-off sequences happen, or are they basically short cycling. These are very expensive things that can be watched on a day-by-day basis, and most control guys go and make some changes but don't realize the full aspects of how that change affects the entire system as a whole. Boilers, pumps, water distribution and treatment. We basically have put in analytics where process equipment is being tracked. So we have a team of analytic and data scientists, part of FacilityConneX, that will help you build an analytic around your process if you need it. So this is all built into our system, all built into that subscription service I talked about earlier. Just to give you a little view, this is the browser-based view. What Rhonda was showing you was the iPad view, so that was the mobile view. In the browser, you can even go deeper. You can do your own analysis, and when you look at it from an analysis perspective, you might even want to trend the different points or compare it to another unit, or you might want to write a report that needs to go to another function or team that you serve. This is all built into our system day one. Everything that Rhonda talked about that showed up there, once it's deployed and configured, it shows up in these screens, and you can look at all that data and run all the reports that you want. This is just a clean example of, diving into a trend and looking at not just the things that the analytic is looking at, the outputs that the analytics is having, and the inputs. You can also tie it to other KPIs, or what we call key performance indicators, to basically see how it compares to other things that are happening, like outside air and stuff like that. So all this is built right into the system, and you guys, anybody who wants to do analysis can do that right away. And then one of the things that I wanted to make sure that you guys understood out there in the audience is that FacilityConneX is a very scalable system. We always start with most customers really looking at a particular area. We don't start looking at 1,000 assets. Even that South Coast case that I talked about earlier started out with one hospital and looking at the air handling units, just like Northeastern is starting at the air handling units and building into full building aspects in the near future. So these are just different approaches that we have taken, but this has been the most standard and the best approach. We look for a small area of concern, problems or pain points that you guys have. We connect to that, show you results, and then we increase by adding in the equipment or the upstream, downstream pieces of the system to get more and more visibility into what's going on. And that comes in different phases. And then as you're building it out over time, we start to identify utility savings or possible capital programs that need to be addressed because you want to replace that unit at some point in time. So we help you do that with our FCS experience, which is these green dots that happen on a monthly type basis. One of the things that we show our customers all the time, because this is true data, this is where you're investing in a system like a monitoring-based commissioning system. What's the biggest value story there? Where are you getting your return on investment? Most of the time it starts out with a little bit of investment and everyone starts to make some changes from things that are being found. Why? Because a lot of times the system is finding low-hanging fruit. These are just simple control types of changes. Matter of fact, 75% of the findings that we find happen to be mostly control type changes. So right in that 10 to 15% savings right off the bat, you're seeing from your control type changes. And then you start to get into the bigger changes, and that's what these bumps are. That's where your total investment of making some corrective actions accelerates a little more because you're replacing something or you're reprogramming or optimizing a particular sequence that's happening across the board. When you start to do those things, obviously it takes a little more effort, so the cost of doing that corrective action becomes higher. However, the value story is always the same. Everywhere we go, we get about a 6 to 8 month type payback, depending upon how quickly people do those corrective actions. And this is the curve that you see. This whole green area can go anywhere from 10% up to 35% potential opportunity savings across the board. And this is year over year, guys. This isn't, because the system's watching it, it's not going to happen again without you knowing it happened again. So we are maintaining that system and making it better and better over time. So this is my last slide before the questions. So if you have any questions, push them in through the chat session there, and we'll answer them right after this call. But one thing that I want to kind of leave you guys with, when you look at this new world of technology and next generation of monitoring and all the data that can be collected, you really have to look at how you're going to basically, like I said on the questions earlier, how you're going to use it. What's your vision for it? Where are your pain points that you want to tackle first? And we're more than happy to talk to you guys about, how our system works and how it could basically address those pain points and help you basically make this decision. But if you're an owner of facilities and want to increase your turnaround time on corrective actions and do the right set of corrective actions, as Rhonda said, we prioritize everything. We help you really go after the biggest bang for the buck first. This is the type of system that you really want to bring on board. This provides year-over-year energy savings. So you're not just looking at what potential cost is there. You're actually looking at, saving energy every month, every time you make a change, every corrective action, every fault that occurs isn't really a fault. It's an opportunity to save money. And then, you become more proactive with your equipment. I mean, these pieces of equipment are more and more complex. The control programming is more and more complex every day. Interactions from chillers to AHUs are very complex. And when you take that complexity and you let the equipment start to tell you, and that's what our analytics do, we act like the piece of equipment, and we tell you when things are going wrong. It really helps you basically do your job better. And if you're a commissioning agent that's out there in the audience, it's the same set of actions. It's that turnaround time to do your services with that customer, helping your customer extend your services and optimize those pieces of equipment quicker. That's what we want to provide to those commissioning agents. And then you become the proactive trusted advisor. You're probably already a trusted advisor in most cases, but you'll become more of a proactive trusted advisor because you're going to see the same alerts that your customer is seeing. So when you think about the voice of your equipment, please think about where you want to be, how complex your world is today in dealing with very reactionary type problems, and how quickly you can actually get to a more proactive type system like FacilityConneX. So with that, I'll leave it open to some questions. Pass it back to Liz.
Thanks, guys. And we did have a few questions here. I'll start with, can the system store more than 1 year of data?
Yes, and I'm getting an echo, but I'll answer it anyway. So yes, the system starts off with 365 days automatically part of the subscription service. If you need more, we actually have 2 customers that actually are over 1 year. We have one that actually does 3 years today. We have another one that actually has 10 years worth of data in our system already. So we not only can start basically give you more years, we'll actually take your history of data and bring it into our system and get you, and basically you'll start to see faults from back in time. Think of that. And that's how powerful our system is and how our analytics work.
So how are the analytics programmed? Are they pre-programmed for certain types of equipment, or can you write custom analytics?
So we have both. That's probably the best way to answer that. We have analytics that are built based on asset types like air handling units and rooftop units, and we built them in a way that they have clear flexibility. Those analytics can basically be tweaked. As a matter of fact, there's probably more tweaked properties and parameters in our analytics than there is actual inputs into the analytic. And that allows you to basically deal with the different types of equipment that's out there. We also have the ability, we actually are working with a company where we're actually developing custom analytics with them around fuel cells. And these are those hydrogen fuel cells that are out there that sit on the outside of a big industrial campus, and they provide clean energy into those buildings. We are actually monitoring those across the world, and we're applying custom analytics into those. So the answer is yes to both to that question.
Yeah, and if I could just expand on that just one little bit is, I mean, we have currently 500 different analytics that are running within the system. So that's why Mark was saying, like, day one, you can start to see data. The analytics are there. We have a number of input parameters that we use to tie those analytics to your actual data points. Some are just bringing in your inputs. Others are what Mark was saying was tweaking, which is where we customize those analytics the way that your system actually runs. So we work with you to make sure we understand the sequence of operations and the schedules, and we actually customize those analytics or make them more appropriate for your environment so your results are real and they're actually tied to you, not just a generic analytic.
Perfect. Next question. What hardware does this require to interface with your system? Does the system broadcast data through a separate cellular phone system?
So we don't require any hardware specifically. We basically run a soft agent, like I explained earlier, that sits either on your BMS or your HMI system or your SCADA system. It could even sit on a server that's anywhere on the same network. That's our soft solution, and that basically will push data out through port 443. Having said that, we also have a cellular box, I guess, a cellular device that can be also placed into a site environment, and we also can provide that same soft agent sits on that box, and it basically makes Ethernet networking connection on the back end of that, and it pushes that data up through the cell connection into the cloud. So we do have both approaches, but to be quite honest, we basically 100% of the time so far, we haven't actually had to use our hardware solution at all. The software solution is basically been good enough for every application that we've done to date.
Great. So I'm going to kind of combine two of our next questions here. So if one of your customers has a BAS, is this system an add-on to what you currently have, or do you need new controls? And then kind of if you already do, if you have a BMS system that monitors the building, why would you need this, or how does this enhance either of those things?
Yeah, so the best way to think about that is, we are an adder to your BMS system. Most people, we do not do controls. So that, we're a pure monitoring type system. We bring the data up, we tell you about the problems, and we don't basically push any type of change down to your controllers or your pieces of equipment. So we are different from that perspective. So we are, in addition to the BMS. Why we are different, we do a lot of things that a BMS doesn't do. A BMS or a BAS type system, we're looking at much more complex, much more system interactions. We're looking at optimization techniques. We do simple set point analysis, but that set point analysis will trigger what our analytics do is hunt for that cause. As Rhonda showed you in the screen, where it was actually showing you the probability of what could be the actual problem, that's what the analytic is doing. That's not what BMS systems do today. So we are a lot different than BMS, and we could share, lots of examples, on any phone call or any follow-up to this, where we can show you some of the things that we do differently than what a BMS or BAS type system does.
And just one other thing is, again, we can cross BMS systems. Maybe you don't have everything in a BMS system. It's in some other controller or some HMI system. We have 200 connection protocols that we make use of to be able to get your data into our cloud. So it actually can pull data from more places, even if it's not currently feeding into the BMS system.
Perfect. So who owns the data after you have canceled or the subscription ends? What kind of format can the customer expect to get it in?
So we always store the data in our proprietary format and encrypt it back in our cloud. So those data stores are personally set up just for you. If you leave the subscription and want your data, we will basically set that up into a form that you can basically be sent that data at the end of your contract.
Okay, and I think, oh, no, we got one more. So here's, could you discuss the conflicts or issues you might have with an existing relationship with the building owner that has an HVAC contractor that has been servicing the building? Or is there a conflict that you see?
No, actually, we have lots of customers today that have already have maintenance type contracts with a control vendor or an HVAC contractor. We actually complement this very well. Actually, we don't. There's a couple ways to think about it. One way is we're basically bringing information back to the customer and back to that control vendor, and we don't do the control work. So we're basically helping serve up, those issues. But the nice thing about that is we're prioritizing those to the biggest bang for the buck for the customer. So we're helping the HVAC contractor, the control contractor, basically get more services and work. On top of that, in a new construction type environment where you basically brought in a new unit or a new chiller or a new air handling unit, we basically, in South Coast Hospital, for example, and a couple of our other customers, we actually commissioned the building and that piece of equipment before it was signed off. So we ensured that based on the design considerations, the sequence of operations, and those control diagrams, we ensured that the new unit was set up and configured correctly, so that later the customer doesn't have to go and pay for changes that occur later on. So this whole concept of new commissioning, our system plays very nicely with as well. It helps basically do that last checkpoint for the control vendor and for the customer to ensure that everything is working properly before the unit is basically handed off to the customer.
So I think we have time for maybe just one more question. Could you briefly describe the effort associated with mapping all the points to the correct location in a field? And how would the commissioning provider promoting and using this software be involved?
Rhonda, you want to take that one? Or?
Yeah. So we have a configuration tool that we use called FacilityConneX. So what we do is there is an automated front end to enable you to create those data models that I showed in the system. And once you have your data model in place, we do an import. This is a normal activity. We do an import of, say, the BMS exported tags. And all we have to do is like drag and drop the BMS tag to the point in the data model that we want it to be associated with. So as long as you put those 2 points together, and then once you have all that data, then the analytics are, you're telling the analytic which data points that you actually want to use. So as soon as you import the data, tie it together in our FacilityConneX configuration tool, you can see all the data model data coming through. Then you take the analytic configuration, which again is all part of FacilityConneX, and say which input tags you want of the ones you've already.
Did we lose Rhonda? Sherry, you still there?
Yeah, it looks like Rhonda has...
Yeah, she might have dropped, her phone might have dropped out there. But what she was saying was at the tail end of there, just to finish it off, once you basically have mapped your analytics into those points, automatically the results that Rhonda was showing you on the demo system come up. I think there was a second part to that question, Liz, that I didn't hear.
The second part of the question was, how would the commissioning provider promoting and using the software be involved with the analytics?
Yep, that's a good question. So, so with the commission, we actually have a partnership program. We have several commissioning agents that are part of that program today. And there's a couple ways, most of the time the commissioning guy knows the building, knows their customer very well. It really helps accelerate that deployment process right up front. And then the second part is the results, basically providing we allow our commissioning partners to be part of what we call the FCX experience, which is that monthly call. And on that call, we let the commissioning agent be the lead. And when they lead that call, they basically help their customer, using our system, help their customer get to a higher level of optimization and savings. Makes the commissioning agent look good, makes us look good. And then on top of that, a lot of times, and this happens almost on every other call I think I'm on, where the commissioning agent basically can offer another service, a design consideration, a study, or utility incentive application type program. So complements and works very well with commissioning agents and technical consultants like that.
So we've got one comment from one of our attendees that they felt this was an excellent presentation, and thank you for it, but wanted to know if you would recommend a retro-commissioning before be performed prior to doing the ongoing commissioning. Do you have a recommendation on that?
Lots of people have asked that question. We actually think of it a little differently. We actually think of it as doing the monitoring-based commissioning, get as much as you can out of that, and then complement that monitoring-based commissioning with other areas, like we don't do lighting, right? So a lot of times in retro commissioning studies, you might actually have lighting involved. So basically, our tends to be the kind of the flip, which is put the connection in there, let the data, let the analytics show you as much as you can, and partner with us, with a commissioning guy of your choice or one of our commissioning partners, and we'll basically format into a complete retro-commissioning study. And then once that is complete, you still have the monitoring-based commissioning system running against everything that was used for that study. So you're getting both benefits of both worlds, and you're building it up into a complete solution, or a complete study, I guess, over time.
And you're only gathering the data once. So you gather the data once, have it available, it's available for both things.
Good point. Yep.
Well, that is all of our questions for today. We've ran over a little bit, but I want to thank you both. This was an excellent presentation, and for all of our attendees for joining us today. Know that we have recorded this and we will be putting it up. You'll have access through the website. We'll also send everyone a link to it. But again, I want to thank our presenters, Mark and Rhonda, for their time for an excellent presentation. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.